All right, everybody, thanks for coming. This is our last session of the year. Hope everybody's excited. It's going to be a good one. All right, so we're going to start off with news stories. We have some cool articles today. And then we're going to get into our middle segment by Vlad, who's going to be tearing down a smoke alarm and tying it into some cybersecurity fundamentals. Then we're going to do a little quiz and raffle for some of our prizes that we got from Tool from the last session, lockpicking session. And then we're going to have a co-op panel with Jack and Chris and be asking questions about co-op interviews, how to land a co-op, things of that nature. All right, I'm going to be starting us off with this story. I thought that was really cool. So Google is releasing a new feature that detects scams on Android devices. So when I first heard about this or read about this, I thought it was really cool that Google is basically giving you that red alert right there at the top. You can see once somebody calls you and they detect that it's a scam. So they have an AI running locally on Android devices that's going to tell you, hey, this seems like a scam phone call, because these scammers are using like very like well-knitted campaigns and organized campaigns, and a lot of them are all using the same scripts and wording. The AI detects this language and then is able to determine whether this is a potential scam phone call or not, and then it gives you a alert. It's a little bit iffy. Like once I heard about that, I was like, oh yeah, AI is listening to your phone call. That's kind of like, yeah, privacy issue. But it's not like a remote server, Google AI server that's listening to the phone call. It's a process that's running locally on the device. So that was pretty cool. Also paired with this is a new live threat detection that's running on Google Play Protect, which is like their antivirus for the Google Play Store, which tells you whether an app that you downloaded or not is stalkerware. So what happens is, well, Google is finding that people are like stalkers or abusive partners are downloading applications onto their victims or spouses or girlfriends' devices or boyfriend to in order to stalk them or other malicious activity. So these apps are abusive and monitor victims without their knowledge. So Play Protect will notify you when an app like this is detected, which is really cool and a huge step forward for user safety. All right. I'll pass it to the team.
All right, guys. I'm going to be talking about connected vehicles and some of the data privacy concerns that comes along with having these vehicles. So, guys, your car is watching you. Your car knows everything that you do. It knows where you're going. It knows how you drive. It knows what music you listen to. It even knows who you're calling and what you did on Saturday night. So this all seems pretty cool and interesting at first because of the convenience it can provide to you. You know, when you wake up in the morning, you don't have to type in your work address into your car. It just knows where you're going to go. But there's a lot of, safety and privacy concerns that comes along with having all of this data being tracked by your car. And so that's what I'm going to get into today. So I want to start by saying your data is precious, and all that data that your car is collecting can be misused. Insurance companies can make your premiums go up by seeing your driving habits. If you're speeding or if you're braking too hard all the time, then, if they get access to this kind of data, they can modify your insurance premiums accordingly. Marketing companies can use this for targeted advertising. If they know you pass by a certain place on your way to work every day, they might give you some kind of, advertisements for this a specific place, or even hackers can access all this data about where you're going and who you're calling, and how you love junior chickens and McDoubles. Yeah, hackers can know this. Yeah, so do I. I love junior chickens too. So yeah, there's this big trade-off here. On one hand, collecting all this data can have safer roads, real-time alerts. It provides convenience to the drivers. And on the other hand, there's all these data privacy concerns. There's security vulnerabilities that comes along with having all this data about your driving habits being stored. So what can we do about this? First, I would say it comes from auto manufacturers. They should be more transparent with the drivers and their consumers, and disclose what kind of data they're collecting. And there should also be more regulation from governments. They should protect drivers from these auto manufacturers and from data brokers trying to collect your data from the manufacturers and selling your data, and doing all this kind of with malicious intent. So I want to leave it off with a question and ask, what would you give up your privacy for? Is it for safer or smarter vehicles? And yeah, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening to those listening on Discord. Today, I've got quite the interesting yet slightly unbelievable story for you all today. Imagine without any authorization, hacking into a local business's network just to try to pitch your own cybersecurity services to them. Slightly unbelievable, yes, I know. Mr. Closter, a 31-year-old Kansas City resident, personally hacked into his local gym's network in an attempt to try and get them to use his cybersecurity services. It's reported that he stole a gym worker's badge, stayed in the gym overnight, and was just hacking away at the computer trying to find vulnerable exploits. He did end up getting access to the network, and when he did things like reduce his membership down to $1, delete his photo from the gym's database, and even went as far as controlling the gym's cameras, which he later bragged about on social media. It didn't stop there. He later hacked the nonprofit organization's network by entering a restricted area not accessible to the public. He used a boot disk to bypass password protections, ultimately ultimately gaining unauthorized access to the network. Once inside the network, Cluster installed a VPN and altered user passwords, effectively locking many users out of their accounts. This costed the nonprofit organization approximately $5,000 in remediation. And again, he did all of this just to pitch his cybersecurity services, just to try and maybe get a job, penetration testing, anything like that. Eventually, Mr. Kloster's brilliant sales mechanism came to an end, as he is now facing 15 years in federal prison. On top of that, he's facing fines and he's facing fines and restitution to cover the financial costs of those financial institutions that he targeted. With all that being said, I think there are some key takeaways from the situation. Number one being, don't do a crime and stay around long enough to brag about it. That's how you get caught. Number two being, showcasing your cybersecurity skills doesn't mean doing something illegal. There's plenty of things like CTF competitions, bug bounty programs, open source contributions that'll help you showcase your skills to try and get your foot in the door. And lastly, the importance of ethics in our field. You could have all the technical skills in the world, but you must remember that we have to adhere to ethical and legal boundaries. That's all I have for you all today. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this session. I just have a small one for you today. It's a small vulnerability that was found within 7-zip in a specific decompression standard called Z standard, which is a very popular compression standard for all OSs, mostly Linux, but all OSs use it. And basically what happens is if the zip is decompressed with this standard, there is a variable in the code that is not, or that is signed. So if the value of length is 0 or less than 0, you get an integer underflow. It goes up to the max integer. It replaces the stack and blows through the heap, and blows through libs as well, and pretty much anything else you're running on your computer. So attackers can actually craft a malicious zip file and make you like download it for like real reasons. Something needs to be compressed. It's a big file, and the malicious zip will allow the attacker to run like unauthorized code on the victim's computer. The fix is actually already out. It's 2407, I think. Yeah, and I was actually running 2302, I think. So I updated it right away. But you can't update through the application. You have to go to the website, download the new setup and stuff. But I was talking to one of our execs about it. He says he doesn't even use 7-zip. He uses WinRAR, which is fine. But in 24H2, Windows is incorporating 7-zip and replacing the default zipping mechanism. So hopefully Windows ships the proper update for that. Yeah, and some computers aren't compatible yet with 24H2 for a myriad of reasons. So 24H2 actually breaks a lot of software and introduces a lot of new bugs. So we'll see when that one actually comes out. But just make sure you update your 7-zip so someone can't accidentally or on purpose execute code on your computer. So that's it for me.
And now I'm going to introduce Vlad for our middle segment. I think that's it. Awesome.
Okay, so hi ISS. My name is Vlad. For those of you that haven't met me, I'm a second-year student at Internet of Communications Technology. It's mostly centered on network engineering, and this semester we had our first class for computer and network security, which really sparked my interest in cybersecurity. And a while back, sometime around the week of midterms, Sheridan was hosting this event for residential safety. They had some people from local law enforcement and fire department come over and do presentations. And they were giving away these free smoke detectors. So I'm a big fan of free stuff, and I went there just for that. Now, I have no need for a smoke detector, but I had the bright idea of wanting to take it apart and see what's inside and what I could learn about smoke detectors. So right off the bat, just by looking at the model of the smoke detector, I went on its website. As you can see, it has horrible reviews. Sheridan could have done way better. And on that same webpage where the product is, they provide an official data sheet for the product. So as you can see, they give us the name of the model, which we already have, and then just basic stuff like what type of power source it uses, what type of smoke detector, what type of carbon monoxide detector. Now, if you like the nitty-gritty stuff, this is pretty underwhelming. There's very little for us to work with here. And the reason for that is because this information is proprietary and confidential. Now, I found this very funny because that's like a big sign that says do not enter, authorized personnel only, but the door's wide open. You can just walk right in. So the first thing I did when I cracked it open, we have this overview of the actual smoke detector here. And in the beginning, my angle was just trying to see how much I could learn about the mechanisms, the different parts that are inside of a smoke detector. It was just pure curiosity. So what I did is by cracking it open, I looked at all the parts, anything that I'm interested in. Some things are kind of self-explanatory, like the middle section here with the button connects to this input on the board. And then there's some outputs for LED strips, which attach to this glass cylinder here for the different colors. And then we have the carbon monoxide detector. We have the battery itself, the chamber that detects the smoke, and this tiny little microprocessor here. We could also note that they use two different speakers. One is just for the voice, and one is the actual alarm sounder. So what I did here is I zoomed in and took pictures of the isolated parts that I was interested in, and we could get the manufacturing codes just from that, which I'll get into just a second what I did with them. But this is the first step for gathering information, and I just threw in the actual smoke chamber in here because I personally thought it was super interesting, and I went down a huge rabbit hole of how it works. Um, if you want to look it up, I do highly recommend it, how photoelectric smoke alarms work. Uh, this contraption is so well thought out that every single model of photoelectric smoke detectors uses the exact same mechanism. It's really cool. The only thing I might want to add to this is if you think of a scenario where there might be manufacturers that are competing with one another, it's quite simple to get your hands on a piece of hardware and just crack it open and see how they designed it so that you could replicate something similar for your own product. So, what is that? That's not supposed to be there.
Oh, that's an old video. That's from the middle segment from the clip. I think it got copied in.
Is there a way to get rid of it?
I probably have to stop and slide with the presentation.
Okay, don't worry about it.
Okay.
The slide that's behind here is just a little breakdown of the parts I selected. The microprocessor, the alarm sounder. I also included the speaker itself, but that's super boring. You could have just put the battery instead because that has more interesting information. But just as a starting point for getting to the drawing board and see where we can go from there. So the main method that I took to do this is by taking the vendor codes. And searching them online or hitting up my best friend. His name is ChatGPT. You guys don't know him. He goes to another school. But I was genuinely surprised how much information I was able to find by something so simple as just taking a vendor code and asking, can you tell me what this is? Right, so starting with the microchip, because I would say this guy is the real star of the show. Just by finding it online through the vendor code, we can see that the manufacturer is Microchip Technology. We have the product number, the models that are available for it. This guy's pretty versatile, very cheap too. You can get this kind of processor for like $10 to $19, and it can be used in a huge variety of things. But the main thing here that I want to focus on is that the vendor website provides their own data sheet specifically for this microprocessor. Right, so this is the PDF that we get from their vendor page, and I really want to emphasize that this data sheet has 230 pages of information going all about the ins and outs of this microchip. And I mean, you could have an entire presentation just on this thing alone with the amount of information that's included in there. But it has things like pin diagrams, the way that memory is organized on it, the way that that CPU timer operates. So if you think about for a second a potential threat actor group that might be organized, and they could have teams or people that specialize in different things, you get your hands on documents like this and then split up the different sections to the people that specialize in those different tasks, you can map out complete sheets of information to see what kind of attack vectors you could find. By just knowing all the different architectures, all the ways that this piece of hardware functions, you could come up with limits for how it works, and then find exploits or ways to break this piece of hardware. So circling back a bit, to extrapolating this data, again, just by plugging in the vendor codes to AI, you can get breakdowns for all of the markings on the actual piece of hardware, like the interpretation of these symbols, which might signify batch codes or manufacturing dates. Now, this part here is purely speculative, so it's not that much of interest to us, but just from a starting point, right off the bat, we know that it's an 8-bit CPU. We know which architecture it uses. We know about its voltage operations. We know what kind of flash memory it has. And you could just keep going from there. Right, so next we'll look at the alarm sounder. I thought this one was also a little interesting. I found the vendor page the exact same way. They provide this little information sheet on the actual web page, which again isn't all that exciting. Most of this information is more or less useless to us. Features loud, it definitely is. Now it's not visible in the screenshot, but in the top left, they have this big red button that says request data sheet. So I did just that. And it takes you to a separate web portal where you actually send an email to the manufacturers requesting the data sheet. I wanted to try just for the hell of it, see what happens. I used my Sheridan email. Right, so I requested the data sheet and then I forgot all about it. But lo and behold, a few days later, I actually got a response saying, hello, thanks for your interest in our product. And then here's the data sheet right there. And all I really said in the email is that interested in seeing the data sheet for a school project. And yeah, they're happy to just hand it out, just like that.
I wonder if it's automated and you could just say, looking to hack this, save it.
I was wondering that too, yeah. I feel like if it was automated, it would have happened faster. So I think it was a real person that was sending them out. Yeah, so this is the data sheet that I got through their email. This one's a little less exciting. It had less pages, but it did still have some pretty useful information. Just right on the cover page, we know which version it's running on the firmware that it has, the part number. It has a bit of a revision history, which could potentially be useful if you look at like the personnel that checks and authorizes changes in this company, potentially some company history, things that happen if you plan on going for some kind of phishing attacks or things like that. But some of the following pages for this sounder do talk about its limitations for electricity and working conditions. So again, by outlining the limits of what this hardware can do, you can make definitions for how to break this hardware. Right, so again, very proprietary and very confidential, guys. Right now, I want to just circle back to cybersecurity. One of the things that we talked about in our course, very briefly, but one of the tactics we call dumpster diving. While it sounds funny, it's one of the biggest reasons why people have policies for discarding documents or discarding hardware. For documents, it's simple enough. All paper tends to go through a shredder to make sure that thrown out paper can't be retrieved by threat actors. But these oversights happen a lot more with hardware. People are more prone to throwing away USB sticks or unwanted hardware. So it is a fairly common tactic where threat actors can get their hands on hardware. And this stuff gets involved with corporate espionage, stealing system credentials, finding out which architecture hardware uses, even things like information recovery, like stored passwords and certificates in hard disks or SSDs. And to me, it's pretty important to be able to identify equipment manufacturers because things like that actually let you go beyond when it comes to scoping out the logistics of a company's supply chain. Where do they get their shipments from? Who are their partners when it comes to ordering hardware and whatnot? Right, so one of the things that the threat actors do is just finding out firmware versions by breaking down hardware, discovering product IDs, which tend to be hard imprinted on the hardware itself. And this can go a long way in revealing intellectual property, like what I mentioned with the design of the mechanism of the smoke detector to reverse engineer manufacturer competitor, how they design their stuff and what you can incorporate into your product, um, as well as just give hints about the manufacturing process of the hardware you're looking at, discovering the supply chain vulnerabilities of that company, exploiting microcontrollers just by discovering the firmware versions of what they do and looking back at the huge data sheet outlining everything about that microchip. You can narrow down potential exploits that could be used on that microcontroller. And yeah, supply chain could be disrupted, manufacturing could be disrupted. And one of the highlights for me as well, denial of service, just by scoping everything out about a piece of hardware, knowing how it works, knowing its limitations. If you're then able to break it and bring it offline, you can deny service. And so I discovered a tear down community while I was doing all this research. And there are a lot of people that like breaking down all kinds of hardware. So it's quite an interesting field if you're interested in that. But I really wanted to include these pieces of hardware that could have some real cybersecurity implications if you're able to do the same thing to things such as security cameras and other sensors that are used interchangeably. Like the alarm sounder that we looked at in this smoke detector, the manufacturers that create those alarms, they ship those alarms out to plenty of other pieces of hardware that use any kind of audible sound signals to trigger alarms. You can take apart video game consoles, power supplies, Internet of Things smart devices, routers and modems, payment terminals and card readers, and even storage devices. There's a whole heap of things that you could learn about taking something apart and seeing what it's made of. So thank you for listening, guys.
On the last day, back in college, a number of years back, we literally went to the library and dumped the recycling bin and brought it back to class and went through to see how many people we could find information on. Oh yeah, yeah, and the amount of stuff that people just threw out even at a school. And this is 10 years ago. Like you can find stuff on Facebook and then pictures of them and the amount of people that post back then. Hey, fill out this quiz and share the thing. So look, hey, there's all the password recovery question answers. You know, stuff out there that people just know about. Of course, just enough to get to an identity on.
You don't know something we don't really think about. I just pause it. Yeah, absolutely. No, we're not the camera.
Let's see. Okay.
Yeah.
Is the mic still working? Cool. So if you guys, I know there's a bunch of people in Discord. So just we put the link for the quiz. So this quiz is for a giveaway for the locks from the lock picking session. If you were in the lock picking session and you rank in the quiz like 1, 2, 3, or 4, you can win a prize. If you weren't in the lock picking session, unfortunately, you won't win. But you feel free to play anyway if you want some mad street cred for doing the cybersecurity quiz. Huh? Yeah, the 4 winners, 2. Oh yeah, so we'll have 4 winners, 2 runner-ups. I've been told. I apologize if the quiz is not good. I did make it in about 10 minutes after I finished work and had to speed over here. So I'll hope for the best, but we will see. Yeah, perfect. Yeah. Okay, cool. I'll give everybody another minute and then we'll get started. Also, if you don't know, or if I'm just delusional, you have to pay for Kahoot now. So, yeah, didn't know that.
Let's see, how many people do we have in Discord? Huh?
Or you can scan a QR code if you guys aren't.
Also, yeah, I have no idea how this works. I don't know if it works like Kahoot. So I don't know if it does like speed-based.
Discord. Okay, that's
Cool. Cool.
people in here, that's pretty close.
All right, I'm gonna start in 10 seconds. Okay, that's about 10 seconds. Let's go. Oh, is it just straight up a quiz?
Yeah.
Oh my god. No using ChatGPT. What I'm gonna do is like first one to 8. Maybe I'll Six. Said you're gonna win it. Yeah, but they get ideas and questions that are Oh, you got one wrong. Oh my god, there's a chance. Holy shit. There's a chance. Are you gonna be right? I swear to God, I'll laugh so hard.
He's taking his time. He's got to keep it. No, we got rotated.
Okay, so Derbil, humongous. Derbil first. Yes. There's still hope.
Get a redemption question as well.
That will take quite a time.
Oh, okay.
Let's see.
I guess it is time-based scores,
Yeah.
right? So we'll just go by score. Cool. I like the music.
Yeah, I know. It's
Pretty good.
It's
It's free, bro. Like,
It's free.
how to guarantee that no one will ever use your service ever again,
Sheridan is horrible.
That is good. All right, guys. So let's turn the music off for a second. So I would now like to announce the winners, and congratulations and thank you to everybody who participated. This was very cool. Again, if you were not in the lock picking session, you will unfortunately not be able to win a prize, but you should pat yourself on the back because those questions, I think they were like, okay, you know what I mean? Like they weren't great, but like, some of you got them wrong, which means that you got some studying to do and exams are next week. So congratulations to Dervil. You are our first place winner. Oh, actually, it's tied. Well, who hit it first? It was Dervil, right? So we can watch the stream replay. We'll have to. Oh, okay. We're gonna have to check for a photo finish here, but Dervil, congratulations. Potentially humongous, depending on who wins the photo finish here, but we will see. So thank you guys so much. We have wow, English. Koala in third, Eddie in fourth, and let's check the last two as well. Bowser and Cool guys. So congratulations. If you're in Discord, give yourself a round of applause, pat yourself on the back. We're going to cross-reference to see who was here. If you are in our top 6, if you're in our top 6, you can either send me a message or any one of the ISS sessions executives. So just message Jamal or Totimoshi on Discord. Let me know. I will just verify that you are actually in the session. So we'll do that by using the, what is it called again? CCR code. And if you are in the CCR with your name, then we will hand you out your prize. So you won a very fancy pick. Actually, I'm going to come up to the camera and show you guys. Give me 1 second. Yeah. Oh, the runner-ups? Yeah, okay, we're coming. I'm coming. Camera's up there. You're not going to be able to hear me, but 1 second. Show them off and we'll do the voice. Okay, we're going to be doing a wonderful... It feels like we're doing like the shop channel almost. I don't even... First place, you get a very fancy wallet card picking, lock picking tool, as well as, I believe, a lock. Very fancy. Congratulations, Dervil. This is a cool prize. I'm very jealous, but I'm not allowed to win anything, so it is what it is. And then you'll also be getting a lock for you to actually practice your lock picking skills, which will include a set of lock picking tools. And for everybody else, this is what you'll be getting, just the pick and the lock picking tools, but not the fancy wallet lock picking set. What do the runner-ups get? Okay. Second, third, fourth locks. Fifth and sixth, a lock, and then fifth, a lock. The 6th place person will win simply a transparent lock. But you know what? It's better than nothing. So thank you so much, guys. Also, I just realized, like, if you were not in the session, but you placed in the top 6, we're just going to go down the list for people who were actually in the session. So you might get lucky if you were like 7th or 8th. And even if you were in the session, but you didn't place in the top 6, you might still win something. So just shoot me a message and I will get back to you shortly. Okay, so we're going to have a little break. We'll have about a 10-minute break, and then we're going to have our alumni panel. So enjoy the break, and we'll be back shortly. I don't know if you guys can hear me or not, but if you are in 7th place, you actually will win a prize. Somebody in 4th has graciously given away their prize, so trickle down. If you are in 7th, you will. Mikkel?
Yeah, he's online.
Okay, perfect, Mikkel. Just message me on Discord, Totimoshi, and we'll get you set up with your prize.
All right, everybody, we're going to start the co-op panel with our alumni, Jack and Chris, and they're going to share their experiences with applying, interviewing, and working at their co-ops. And then we'll do like a question and answer session about co-ops. I'm sure a lot of people have questions with the co-op season coming up, and a lot of people are applying for jobs right now. So, who would like to start? I hand it over to Jack.
Yeah, I guess we'll introduce ourselves. Yeah, so for anyone who I think it's on I used to be in the class. But yeah, that gets me to my introduction. For those who don't know, and I do see a few new faces here. My name's Jack. I graduated from the program in August. During my co-op term, I worked threat intelligence at Arctic Wolf, and currently I'm working threat intelligence at Flashpoint. And yeah, beyond that, I was involved in the club for most of my time at Sheridan in a few different roles. And I can't recommend staying involved enough.
So, hi, my name's Chris. Currently, this is my last semester at Sheridan. For my co-op term, I did it at IBM in the summer for incident response. And then from the fall, I did it at, I did the co-op at BlackBerry for digital forensics. And then, yeah.
Put that on the table.
I have a question. No, very specific. Are trying to apply their co-ops and get the best opportunities possible. It's kind of two questions. From yourselves and from the experiences that you shared with your peers, what were some of the ways that you guys were able to stand out or make a difference that really you felt got you in your position to co-op? And second question, which you can answer after, completely unrelated actually, but how much do you feel that the program at Sheridan actually prepared you for what you guys do in the day-to-day at your respective jobs?
Yeah, so one way I stood out, I went to a gym, stole an employee's badge, stayed overnight. Can't recommend it. But actually, I mean, the biggest one was the club, getting involved. It shows just a desire to learn. Beyond that, I worked a couple jobs. One was as a software programming instructor, and also retail. One big thing which you got to understand is no matter what job you're working, there's a way to spin it and make it relevant. Especially if you're working in consulting, Todd did a talk this year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did he mention how good retail is? Yeah, he mentions that a lot because it's true. There's a lot of skills, just soft skills when it comes to work in retail, which are important in any role you work, especially consulting. And then I don't know if we want to go, Chris, or
Yeah, sure. So, speaking of retail, I had a job at Costco. So that helped me get into the consulting at IBM. But so I think when it comes to actually getting your co-op, you don't want to stick to only Sheridan Works. So look at LinkedIn, Indeed. Also, you got the club too. So apply for executive positions. There's a bunch of executive positions I think that come out every year. And then also you could do write-ups on CTF or write-ups on software. Create your own home lab, and then from that home lab, just explain your thought process, and then just post it on your GitHub. And then so you could create blogs. So I think there's a couple. I think there's WordPress you could use. There's Jekyll, which is static static for pages, HTML pages. And then there's also Medium, where you could post blogs and stuff to stand out.
In terms of how much the program really helped prepare me, with threat intelligence, it was a little bit more niche, and it's also a pretty broad field where you just kind of grab a little bit of everything. So in some ways, some of the networking classes came up a bit. The current role I'm working in is a little bit more like specific related to like threat actors and stuff like that, financial crimes and stuff. So not as much, but I mean, you never really know what role you're going to work, so do your best to pay attention.
Yeah, so I think the course teaches you like good fundamentals about like security and some networking too. Um, but yeah, the main thing is to look outside for resources when it comes to your learning. And like I know for me, I ended up doing a couple of the TCM security courses on malware, and then also a forensics course that did help me end up help me in my role, and then also end up helping me get the job offer from IBM because they were looking at that. They Most of these companies they care about more about the extracurricular that you're doing. They don't really care too much about like you just posting assignments and stuff, and then just stating you just got like 100% on. They want to see like you doing write-ups, you learning new tools that are outside of the program.
Specific advice to you, you, Vlad, the guy who just did the lovely middle segment. Throw that on your resume. Throw a hyperlink. Proof of work. Like they want to. I mean, it's computers, so it's like we got a lot of shy people. But if like you're good at presenting, that's quite a commodity.
Maybe more kitty and the proprietary.
Yeah, remove those slides entirely.
Yeah. We'll edit the YouTube thing, just blur those parts.
Another question, but if anybody else has one first, free.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, when it comes to the searching process, when you guys just started looking for your jobs, just like rough ballpark, how long did it take you? How many applications did you send out? How many responses did you have before you finally landed with the co-ops that you had?
I got my co-op in February, which is relatively early. Like there's maybe a few people who got a role before me, but it really picks up a lot in the winter semester. Like I had one interview after sending out like 40 applications. Mind you, I was applying to like a lot of American companies, which they didn't want me. But like once winter rolled around, like I started actually noticing a lot more responses. Like I had 3 interviews within a couple months when I had 1 in 4 months in the prior semester.
Yeah, so for me, I got mine in April. It was kind of a little bit close, but yeah. So I put in like 20 applications, and I got like 3 or 4 interviews. So yeah, I mean the main thing is like if you're not finding interviews or getting interviews, you could always go to the co-op office. Like Laura is actually really good when it comes to like helping out with like resumes and stuff. Like I only got like 1 interview, and then I went to Laura, and then I said like, how can I fix up my resume? And she's like, do this, this, this. And the next thing you know, I got 3 more interviews after that. So wow, she's really useful.
Yeah.
Another thing about the interviews is like there are definitely a lot of resources. Like with Laura, like I took advantage of that because I was like really nervous. It was a role I really wanted, but nothing's really going to prepare you for an interview than an interview. So look, if your first couple interviews don't go so well, you got to kind of pick yourself back up and just be ready for that.
Yeah, I mean, also like with the interviews too, you could also go to your family members too, and then just ask them about like, can you sort of like interview me or like ask questions? Maybe like it'll be maybe like I would say on the non-technical side, but still getting that practice for an interview would still be good. So
yeah, I wanted to ask like the interview itself, like these interviews, the 3 or 4 that you did and how like that, were they more technical? Or were they trying to gauge what type of person you are since it's an internship position? That's basically my question.
They were somewhat technical. It varies a little bit, but yeah, basically be prepared to answer to anything on your resume, all of that's fair game. Don't lie on your resume. Also, don't try to BS your way through an interview, because they will know when you're BSing, and there's a reasonable chance they aren't even expecting you to have the answer. They're just sort of poking and prodding and making sure you're willing to admit about stuff you don't know. Because think about it, if you get hired at, like, I don't know, EY or whatever, you're in your consulting, you're talking to a customer and you start bullshitting for the customer, there's actual consequences for that. So you gotta be in a place where you're comfortable admitting you don't know something.
Yeah, so for me, mine was more technical. They did ask me questions about like my resume, about like the extracurricular stuff that I did, and then some stuff about like the MITRE ATT&CK framework. Then I think one was on like ping too. But they did ask me, I think one question was asking me about like, I forget what it was, but I said I'm willing to learn it, but like right now, like I just don't have an answer to it. And that was a really good thing that I said. So
What the hell did they ask you about ping?
yeah, it was basically how ping works and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have a question for you guys. Something that gets talked about a lot, just in classrooms and presentations and conferences, and seemingly getting mixed opinions from everybody, is the importance of certifications for applying to co-op. So in you guys' experience, from the conversations that you may have had in the workforce, what do you feel is the importance of certifications in applying to your co-ops, or the detriment as well, or some to avoid? Because I know that there are some that are just not worth wasting your time. But if you want to speak to that at all.
You have any certs?
I used to, but not anymore. Well, it expired. I had the CompTIA one, so. But
No,
yeah,
yeah.
I mean, for certs, like I don't think it's really necessary. Usually, you want the company to pay for your certifications. Yeah, I think mostly the companies care about is just extracurricular, just doing, yeah, the write-ups and sort of creating your own home labs and stuff over the certifications, because certifications is more like, sure, like an exam on like basic knowledge. But yeah.
Yeah, it kind of depends on what you mean by important. Like, if you mean I need a cert to get the co-op, that's not going to be the case. 90% of the other applicants won't have a cert. That said, you know, a cert won't hurt, except for maybe like those certified ethical hacker ones kind of have a bit of a bad reputation. So in terms of avoiding, I'd probably avoid that. But look, if you got the money, and I mean, there's some reasonable ones. Like if you're really interested in like OffSec, I think the EJPT is reasonably priced, reasonable difficulty. That can be one way which can help you. So it's a bit of a judgment call. If you got the money, if you got the time, they won't hurt, but necessary, not really.
Yeah, if you go the certification route, I would strongly recommend doing practical ones. Not like these like exam ones. The practical ones are the good ones. So like for me, like I was doing the like I'm currently right now doing the Cyber Defenders one, and that one's like all practical. They give you a scenario, then you have to go through sort of the incident response, sort of create a timeline events and stuff, and then answer questions. So the practical ones are the ones that are really beneficial. Instead of the multiple choice, you know, click here, click here. Yeah.
Anybody else have another question?
Yeah. So I'm in my first year, my first semester, and I know like after my exams are done, I'll have 3 weeks to do whatever I want, and in the summer I'll have 4 months to do whatever I want. So what would you say is the most effective use of my time, being that I'm in my first year, in securing a co-op down the road?
I think I would do too. But I mean, if you're involved in a club, they got stuff that you'll be working on throughout the summer. There are the summer sessions, and then the CTF is early in winter semester, so you'll be working on that there. But that's a whole other pitch. I mean, that kind of depends on you. Like, if you do want to pursue a cert, that's one thing. I know some people have worked some summer jobs in like second year. That's one option. Again, it's not, if you don't get a summer job, it's not the end of the world. Most people don't have a cybersecurity job until co-op, but that's another option. And I mean, there are other free stuff. I mean, with your Sheridan email, you get LinkedIn Learning, so there's quite a bit of modules there. You have options, is I guess what I'm saying.
Yeah, so I think Sheridan gives you access to books too with like O'Reilly. So you can read books there. I think some of them sort of give you access to sort of creating like your own like home labs and stuff. So you could go over that during the summer. You could go over, I think right now the cheapest one is probably, those TCM security ones. Because that one has like a bunch. You got like ethical hacking on there, you got blue team, so you got forensics on there and stuff. So you can take some of those courses and then go through it, learn the material, and then sort of do write-ups on I guess what you learned, or then sort of like if it's the ethical hacking one, you could go to, I think, VulnHub, which is like basically like, I think, like boxes that are have like a lot of vulnerabilities in it, and then you could sort of use the tools from that TCM security course, and then sort of understand like how the box is actually like vulnerable and how to exploit it. Those are like free. The VulnHub, I believe, is a free resource, but the TCM security, I think it's like $30 a month or something. Yeah, it's really cheap. So.
So, on Coursera, pretty sure we've all heard of it. This summer, this summer, I got the $80 a month subscription for 2 months. So like $160, but at that time I did the Microsoft cybersecurity analyst course, which was like supposed to take 6 months, but I ended up 2. But it was really cool to go through it because I got like practical hands-on experience with Microsoft Azure and cloud environments and cloud AD setups. And at the end, I had to do a capstone project for the actual cert, where I put together like a 5,000 word or 6,000 word, 26-page like document that I had to submit for the actual certification. And for like $160 to get like that much in-depth like hands-on stuff, like again, if you have the 4 months, take advantage of it. I just didn't want to have to pay for 4 months, so I did it in 2. But there's tons of resources that you can use online just to prepare yourself ahead of time and figure out what you want to enjoy in cybersecurity. So you can definitely do stuff like that. Sorry. Anybody else have any other questions?
How would you explain the workload as an intern? The day-to-day, what's kind of expected of you, and just kind of anything related to that?
It was a full-time job, honestly. Like, you're working 9 to 5, but it's definitely reasonable. I'm sure it varies quite a bit depending on the workplace, but once you're doing your co-op, don't be afraid to ask questions. Like, now is your chance to ask those dumb questions, learn. So don't be afraid to do that. Your manager will probably appreciate it.
Yeah, so I think for that, like you could also like shadow people too. So like when I was doing consulting, I was like shadowing people. So basically watching them do sort of going through like digital forensics and like images and stuff. And then like the workload isn't really that bad. Like, I mean, like when I was at IBM, I was doing like capstone, and then I was able to sort of look at incidents that happen regarding like ransomware and stuff. So it's really not that bad.
So I want to ask something adjacent to what he asked you, but rather than workload, if you guys could share what your day-to-day activities were like, what kind of things you got your hands on, and if there were any special outliers, like out of the ordinary, memorable things that you encountered in your co-ops. Tell us, tell us what you guys were up to.
Like day to day, the good thing about threat intel is it often varies quite a bit day to day. But in terms of routine, like we would get requests from other members of the team to look into different stories. Typically, we were focused on vulnerabilities, like some new CVE drops, and then we would look into it, figure out what the criticality of it is. It being exploited? Are there proof of concept exploits out there? If it does get exploited, like how bad is it? Is it remote code execution? And like factoring all that stuff, as well as how prevalent it is in our customer environment. Like if it's a a 10 out of 10 severity CVE, but no one in our client environment actually uses the product, we don't really have to do anything, obviously. But a mix of it's being used and then it's severe enough, we would send out reports to our customers, basically informing them about this vulnerability and then patches or workarounds for that. And then beyond that, there was like some busy work just finding new reports with indicators of compromises, like different IP addresses or file hashes, and then just adding that to our data set. So our systems were checking our customers' environment for them.
Nice.
Yeah, so for me, it was mostly just doing a capstone at IBM, and then I was helping out with some of the incidents. So like, I guess like ransomware investigation. So going over like the known ransomware threat actors, so like Black Hat, and then also all those ones. So, but yeah, and then at BlackBerry, it was more internal. So then I was basically given equipment and then a laptop, and then I had to use like closed source like tools. Like I think there's a couple. I think Magnet's one of them. And then from that, I had to sort of create like an entire timeline of events, what occurred. Then I was more dealing with incidents that were dealing with employees. So
Nice.
that was interesting.
Cool,
In terms of outliers, I'm sure a lot of people, you guys remember the Move It vulnerabilities and how basically everyone got hacked? That was like the first week I was done my training, like my first like actual week. So we get like the ISSes or whatever, and like, okay, Jack, just run this scan or whatever, and I'll get like 300. That's really is this normal? Turns out that's not normal.
Yeah, so with Move It, on the forensic side, we got disk images, and then we saw the threat actor sort of using tools that and sort of dropping, indicators of compromise on disks regarding Move It. So it was interesting to see like privilege escalation, data exfiltration, and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool stuff, man. Thank you for this.
Any other questions?
Do you have any questions on social?
I have
Yeah, one question. It's not really related to co-op, but are you guys like reading any books or listening to any podcasts that aren't like how-to books, that are just like general like cybersecurity interesting books that you guys like to read, or podcasts that you like to listen to?
I like Darknet Diaries. That's
Darknet Diaries?
the normal answer, but it's cool stuff. Beyond that, I don't really do too much. I probably should be doing more.
Yeah, for me it was Darknet Diaries, and then it was the Cyberwire. So going over, so listening to Microsoft's like threat intelligence, and then Unit 42, which is like Palo Alto's threat intel. So listening to sort of industry professionals on what they're seeing in the field is like really interesting.
We got a shameless plug kind of question. For your co-ops and for your careers right now, how important was your time in ISSessions towards pursuing or achieving those goals?
That's a good question.
For anybody that wants to join.
Sure. So, in 2023, I was the CTF dev lead. So, basically, that role was just having a team of developers, and then we ended up developing the CTF that happened at at the Mississauga campus. So that was really interesting, and like it's also like really beneficial for you for like sort of the executive role because it's more on the extracurricular side, which employees love to see that you're doing extracurricular things outside of your program.
Yeah, and for me, I used to be president of the club, and like I didn't realize it at first, but it seems like looking back, that was probably like 90% of the reason I got my co-op because I get on the team and my managers, they run DEF CON 416, which is a meetup that happens in Toronto. And they eventually brought me onto that team. So it seems like they were really interested in my experience with running ISSessions. And I know that a lot. Like we were sort of saying earlier, you don't have to necessarily be the the greatest hacker. You don't have to have 50 bug bounties to your name or whatever. Like the main thing they're looking for is the drive's there, and then they can teach the rest. So you gotta have something to show for yourself.
Anybody else have any questions before we wrap up soon? No? Good? Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. Say goodbye to everybody on Discord. All right, guys, thank you so much for coming out, and thank you to everybody that came in person. We really appreciate it. Good luck with your exams. I know we have them all coming up. Don't stress. It's just another quiz. It's just kind of worth like 35% of your grade. So good luck, everybody. Study hard, and we will see you after the new year.